You still remember those Saturday mornings, right? The one time you were actually excited to wake up in the morning. I mean, first off, you didn't have school, no homework, and the only thing you had to worry about was missing your favorite show. So you inhale your breakfast, rush to the couch, and settle in for hours of pure joy. And no other block did it better than Kids WB. Where else could you watch Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Batman all in one block? Even catchy theme songs and promos had you hooked and excited. Also, there were no reruns or streaming, you just had to wait and hope you catch the next one. That type of anticipation is non-existent nowadays. I mean, this was pretty much the vibe of Saturday mornings, well, at least as a kid. To many of us now, Saturday is just another day, especially if you have to work. But the feeling of owning your day is something you wish you can experience again. Not a single worry in the world. And that's what this series is about. This is part 1 of a 3-part series, diving into the rise and fall of Saturday morning cartoons. We're starting with Kids WB because it wasn't just a home for popular cartoons, it shaped our childhoods. And though it peaked in the 2000s, the story of how it all started and how it quickly slipped away needs to be told. So before we talk about the shows you remember and get to why it all changed, let's go back to where it all began. The block officially launched in September of 1995, during a time when the networks were really starting to understand how impactful Saturday mornings could be, especially for children. At the time, Fox Kids was already running strong, ABC was still holding on, and Nickelodeon was doing their own thing on cable. But the WB network was still pretty new at the time, and they needed something that could pull in younger viewers, something that could give the channel a real identity. That's where Kids WB came in. It wasn't just slapped together with random cartoons, it was curated and he leaned into what they already had, which was Warner Brothers animation. Shows like Animaniacs, Freakazoid, and Pinky and the Brain gave the block a smart, chaotic, and slightly offbeat personality right out the gate. It just felt different from other networks. Kids WB wasn't afraid to get a little weird or talk directly to you through bumpers and skits, like you knew exactly who was watching. It has slapstick Looney Tunes DNA but with a sharper, more modern twist. And right from the beginning, it was clear that this block wasn't just trying to fill time, it was trying to stand out. At first, it didn't feel like a cartoon empire, but you could definitely feel the momentum building. They were slowly laying that foundation, mixing in original content and pulling from the Warner Brothers library to create something that felt a little more polished than its competitors. What helped too was the tone. Even the humor had layers, and visually the shows looked good. Clean animation, bold character designs, and a quirky energy that stuck with you. The block also benefited from weekday afternoon programming, which not only helped build loyalty outside of just Saturdays, but viewers could also watch their favorite cartoons throughout the week. By the time the late 90s rolled around, Kids WB was primed to break out in a big way. All it needed was the right lineup, and trust me, when the 2000s hit, that lineup changed everything. By the time the early 2000s came around, Kids WB hit a whole new level. It wasn't just another cartoon block anymore, it became the place to be on Saturday mornings. The real turning point came in 1999 when Pokemon officially joined the block. Technically, it started airing in the US in 1998 on syndication, but Kids WB got the full rights in 1999 and wasted no time making it front and center. That move changed everything. Suddenly, every kid in school was talking about Ash, Pikachu, Team Rocket, and who caught what. The games, the cards, the movies, it was all connected, and the show was what brought it to life. And just when it felt like Pokemon couldn't get any bigger, Yu-Gi-Oh came in and gave it some serious competition. That show had drama, monsters, crazy duels, and a tone that felt more intense than most other cartoons at the time. It aired right after or before Pokemon, depending on the lineup, and it gave Kids WB the unbeatable 1-2 punch that other networks could not match. But it wasn't just those two shows holding things down. The entire lineup around them was strong. Kids WB had this perfect balance of action, comedy, and adventure that kept things interesting from start to finish. Static Shock was a major highlight. It was one of those few shows at the time centered around a young black superhero, and it wasn't afraid to touch on real issues like racism, bullying, and even gun violence. But it still had that fun, comic book energy with cool powers, and a great lead character and solid writing. Then there was Jackie Chan Adventures, which was just plain fun. You had villains with magical powers, ancient monsters, martial arts, and comedy all rolled into one. It had that perfect balance of action and lighthearted moments that made it a favorite for so many. Another standout was Shaolin Showdown. This show was about a group of young monks who embark on quests to find mystical artifacts. The series stood out for its creative storytelling and unique animation, earning a dedicated fan base. These shows, among others, contributed to Kids WB's reputation for offering diverse and engaging content that appealed to a wide range of viewers. By the mid-2000s, something started to feel off. The feeling of waking up to Kids WB was still there, but it wasn't quite the same. I still remember tuning in and thinking, where is everything? Like, some of the shows I used to watch were gone or barely getting new episodes. One of the biggest changes came in 2006 when WB merged with UPN to create the CW. That merger changed more than just the name of the network, but it shifted the whole direction of Kids WB. It wasn't very obvious right away, but over time, the vibe started to change. There were fewer new shows and a lot more reruns. All of the energy that made the block feel alive started to quiet down. The personalities, the bumpers, the sense of event television, it all started slipping away slowly. You could still find stuff to enjoy, sure, but it didn't feel like it was for us anymore. But the one thing that was very obvious was that Pokemon left Kids WB for Cartoon Network. That was massive. For years, Pokemon had been the backbone of the block, the thing you could always count on being there. When it was gone, a huge chunk of the viewership went with it. Sure, they tried to fill the space with newer shows, but nothing really had the same pull. There was a time where Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was holding it down, and I still have love for that era, but that spark was fading. The Batman was cool too. I liked how they give us a younger, slicker version of Bruce Wayne with a more stylized look. But by then, it felt like Kids WB was running out of steam. New shows would come and go like Johnny Test and Skunk Fu, and they were fine, but it was different. I actually enjoyed watching Johnny Test when it was on Kids WB, like right before it went over to Cartoon Network. But to get back on topic, the consistency and hype just weren't there anymore. I mean, you started watching out of habit, but not excitement. The other thing that hit hard was the drop in original programming. There was a time where every show on Kids WB had its own flavor and its own identity. I mean, you see Tom and Jerry Tales, which was decent but not new. I mean, it was a modern take on a classic that didn't hit like the original. And then you had shows like World of Quest, which honestly felt like they came and went before anyone had a chance to care. There was really no build up or community around them, just another show slotted in. I don't remember anyone at school talking about it the way we used to with Yu-Gi-Oh! And Static Shock. It was like the soul was missing, and those fun little bumpers that tied the block together started disappearing too. It felt like they weren't even trying to make the block feel unified anymore. Just show after show and no heart in between. You could tell the focus was shifting somewhere else. It also didn't help that streaming and cable were starting to take over. Cartoon Network was pumping out shows left and right. Nickelodeon was still running strong, and suddenly, you didn't need to wake up early on a Saturday anymore. With DVR and on demand, you could watch whatever show you wanted. Then platforms like YouTube and early streaming services started creeping in, changing how we all consumed cartoons. Fewer kids were tuning in live. The ratings also dropped, and when the numbers fall, the budgets fall too. That's why I felt like everything was getting cheaper. The animation, the promotion, even the shows themselves. Kids WB was trying to hold on to an old model in a world that was moving on without it. I still remember the Spectacular Spider-Man airing near the end of the block's life, and that show was incredible. It had great writing, sharp animation, and gave Spider-Man fans something that actually felt fresh. By 2008, Kids WB was officially done. The final broadcast happened in May, and what replaced it felt nothing like what came before. It was the start of a new era, one that looked like a Saturday morning cartoon block, but definitely didn't feel like one. So yeah, by the time they slapped the CW4 Kids label on it, it just didn't feel the same anymore. But there is more to the story, because what came after still deserves a conversation. So if you grew up during that weird transition era, or just wanted to see how it all changed, definitely stick around for part 2. With all that said, I'll catch you in the next one.